before we get into the other politically motivated shooting that happened this morning.
True.
Wait, what?
Oh, yeah, there was another one.
Yeah.
I was in a basement this morning. All I've done is eaten a bagel. What happened now?
Well, we have your alibi.
Basement?
I want to talk about it. It was a meeting. Don't worry about it. But what happened with the shooting?
ICE facility in Dallas. 2 dead, including the shooter. Anti-ICE written on the bullet casings, and a manifesto released, but I have not read it yet.
I did see that the person that was not the shooter was not law enforcement. The person that died.
Yeah, I don't think any of the deaths were ICE. I think this person was just shooting from the roof and killed a few people.
So just like had a manifesto shot random people in order to get the manifesto out, insofar as we know?
Just
developing story as we go. The only thing that we do know is that the whole writing your diary on cases, on bullet cases. That's
that's a
new
thing
trend
now. Yep.
Yeah.
The days we're living in. I wish this would stop.
Yeah. Heaton, why were you in a basement?
Thank you.
I got invited to go to Grover Norquist's Wednesday meeting. And so
Sounds taxing.
I went to go, fuck you. No. What?
That was good, Justin. I liked it.
No.
I was sitting on that. Home run.
Congratulations. If you like puns, you did a good job with that one, Justin. If you think puns are funny, you probably think Justin's funny. Yeah. No, I just got invited to do it by a friend, and I went, I'll go check that out. Nice enough. They had really good spread, excellent bagels, good lox, good cream cheese. And then had a surprisingly international group, which I wouldn't have anticipated. Like they had a member of parliament from Austria. They had somebody from France come zooming in. So it was interesting. But
how is DC as a bagel town? I figured they have enough Jews that they'd be good.
Yeah,
it's all about the water.
Seems okay to me. I mean, New York remains the top standard. That remains the top one. Yeah, no, I feel like I can get good bagels in DC. I struggled to get good bagels in Texas. Also, and I say this to somebody who loves
well-known.
I love Tex-Mex. I love Tex-Mex. Texas will feed you. It's not good at pizza. Texas has really low quality pizza or weird $50 hipster pizza. There's not a lot of intermediate pizza unless you want to go with a chain.
I will say it's expensive, but I've actually had some very good pizza in Austin. Whole slice.
Was it so $60 gluten-free heirloom tomato?
No, I would side more with Jen. I think that I'm with you. It doesn't have a great middle to lower class pizza universe in the way that New York does. But it's if you're willing to spend at the we're not at a chain range. There's a few popular chains, Via 313 and Home Slice and stuff like that has a few different options. But I don't know. I think the pizza's okay. I wouldn't put pizza on the list of things to do when you're in Austin, but if you live in Austin, you can find good pizza.
And I think it's because there's transplants in Austin. I don't think Home Slice is some guy that grew up in Texas. I'm pretty sure it's a New Yorker.
No, you know what?
That's opened that place.
That's true, and that actually is a phenomenon everywhere. We have it really good today in the United States in terms of food. I was born in the mid 80s, back in the 20th century, and I think I remember reading an article about when sushi came to Oklahoma in the 90s, where there was an Oklahoma Gazette article that was there's this Japanese thing with raw fish, but it's okay to eat. It's not, you don't need to worry about it, even though they don't cook it. And then you go back before I was born to the 50s, if you weren't in New York, Boston, or San Francisco, your options were Spaghetti House or hamburgers. That was at a diner. There wasn't anything else. But now, you can be in Guthrie and get Thai food. Get Laotian food in El Mino or something. It's we got a lot of variety today.
I forget which book it was that pointed out that the best, if you just go by Michelin stars, the best cuisine of each region is counterintuitively not in the area that the food originates. It's usually in a pocket of large expats in a richer country. So it's like
that makes sense.
The best Italian food would be somewhere in London or New York or something like that.
Chicken tikka masala is either from Birmingham or Glasgow, depending on who you're talking to, but it's not from India.
Yeah. And that's just good as hell.
Plus, you get the fusion element, right? Like really good stuff comes from cultures interacting with each other and coming up with new combinations. So if you are going to be an expat community in some other place and you take your traditional skills and palate, but you open yourself to the other ingredients that are available to you, some really neat stuff will follow. Yay, pluralism.
Yeah. And yay, immigrants. Like it's one of the things I love the most about America is that we have all this here.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite jokes when we got the new pope was finally Italy will get good pizza since he's from Chicago. And I was like, kind of.
An immigrant was my hero last week because
who?
So my stupid bicycle, the chain came off, and so I stopped on the side of the road.
Not the one you got stolen.
No, it's the one I replaced it with. It's my Amazon bike. And there's this panel that's like over the chain. And so I tried to fix it myself and it kind of got stuck in that thing. And it was definitely at that point a 2-person job. And so I'm standing there. I have oil all over my hands and just one guy after another. There must have been 50 that just went by me and a couple of them fucking laughed. But this immigrant named Pedro stopped, helped me, taught me how to fix it next time myself if it happens again. It was so nice. But yeah, all the American men.
How do you know he was an immigrant?
Because his accent was extremely thick. Like it was pretty clear. I will guess. I didn't ask him for his papers because I'm not an ICE agent.
You prejudged him.
I absolutely did. And I told him he's my hero and he was the nicest guy ever. So good. Not all prejudice is bad. We proved it. Yeah. We have good prejudice too. I definitely went home to Joe and I'm like, these fucking Americans, they didn't stop to help me, but this guy did, and I love him. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of unchivalrous men went by me. So. Oh, what are these people, man? What are they even doing? Not helping a woman with grease all over her hands and fingers. Ridiculous. Yeah, I hoped someone would stop. He's the only one who did. Yeah, and they didn't. One after another passed right by you. Mm-hmm. Disgusting. Disgusting. But I got the chain back on. Got back on the road. How are you readjusting to the United States of America?
Me?
Yeah.
Good to be back.
Is it?
It's not that I dislike being back. I really do miss Edinburgh. I like being over there, so I'm a little bit sad. Plus, it's kind of me hating sweating. It's a little bit of the timing's not quite where I want it to be. Like ideally, I would be over there and then I'd come here right as fall starts. But leaving Edinburgh, today's soupy. It's just hot and soupy, and then I think humidity literally makes me depressed. In the same way that how other people get depressed if it's cloudy. You know how everybody gets sad. I've read articles. People get
seasonal
sad.
Defective.
Yeah, and then everybody's fucking thrilled when they go to California because it's sunny all the time. I'm like that with humidity. And some other stuff too. So just doing all right, but taking me a minute to get my bearings again. I would have loved for you to go to one of those 1940s Kellogg's health retreats that would just put you in a sauna for 12 hours until it psychologically broke you and made you like humidity. My brother texted me yesterday and he said that he works in construction and he's out looking at sites all the time, and he said that he's now doing a ton of saunas because he's built like me. He also hates hot weather, but he said that just doing a ton of saunas, it seems to have a palliative effect on heat and humidity where it acclimates you or, I don't know, kills your will to live or something to where you can go out and do that. So maybe I should do more of that. I also feel like you could find one of those sweat houses, those bath houses or whatever. It would just be you and 7 old Ukrainian dudes who all look like melted ice cream in towels or less. And you would just be talking to them. You'd of course be you'd make friends with all of them. I do like a sweat room and I do like a sauna, but I think it's because it forces me to do nothing. The problem is when I'm walking around outside, I am doing something. And the humidity's just interfering with my ability to live while doing stuff. Whereas when you're in a sauna, all you're trying to do is not die. You're just breathing, going, don't die. And it's kind of meditative. Maybe I'll get into that.
I think you should make it a large part of your personality. Yeah. You should refer to all like Yuri and Sergey, like you just refer to them by first name on the show and act like we all know what the hell you're talking about. I feel like this would be a really, really good addition to the Heaton lore.
You know,
like,
when I lived
noted bathhouse fan.
When I lived in New York, when I finished out in Alphabet City near Tompkins Square, and there's a really good Russian bathhouse near Tompkins Square. And I would go there maybe once a month or so. Apparently it's not good for your sperm, but I probably don't need to worry about that at this point. But good for your health overall.
It's not good for your sperm?
No, heat's not good for your sperm. Like taking long baths or being in a hot tub for a prolonged period of time. It doesn't.
Don't boil your balls, Justin. It makes sense.
It doesn't. I don't think it has a permanent effect, but it does kill sperm until they're replenished. So however long.
Yeah. I mean, like, how long are you staying in one of these bathhouses, though? Like, I can't imagine it's more than an hour, is it?
I think if you're taking a hot bath or you're staying in hot tubs often enough at a high temperature, that's probably the thing. But again, I'm not currently trying to impregnate anybody, so it's not really a big issue. We need a cum doctor.
Email in if you know about cum and jizz and balls. Like, let us know and find out at what temperature, how long can Heaton socialize with a bunch of geriatrics.
Or if I could just find
foreign geriatrics.
If I could find a sperm bank in the DC area, that would alleviate some of my fear, and then I can go full throttle into sauna culture.
You know what I did
just
when we were
move
thinking
into
about
an igloo, and then you can sperminate anyone you want.
Great.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just be like hitting it raw, that Inuit stuff. That'd be it. That'd be the way to go. Just letting the drippings freeze when they hit the ground.
It's cheaper than a bank.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young from her father's floor in Southern California.
I'm Jennifer Briney in a chair.
Okay. The chair's on the floor. And from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
I'm Andrew Heaton.
And we're not wrong, nor are we in Grover Norquist's basement anymore. On this edition of the program, we will be talking about the disappearance and return of Jimmy Kimmel, a fun little First Amendment / telling tale of our modern broadcast ecosystem, all in about a 5-day period that has now resolved itself as Kimmel returned to the air last night. We will talk about that. And it looks now for sure that we are going to shut down the government by the time that you hear us next on this program. And so we don't ask the question, will the government shut down? We rather ask the question, for how long and at what resolution will it come back? That and your emails. Jen, how long are you on the runway and in this co-working space? How long are we going to have you in your father's living room?
I'll be back and forth to the living room for the next few weeks. So next week I'll be in Seattle in a luxury hotel. I cannot wait. All I want to do is sleep. So I'm excited for the hotel.
Have you not been sleeping?
Not well, no. It was too hot in the Airbnb. And then once we got into the RV, I just haven't been sleeping well since Charlie Kirk's shooting. It's just, I'm not replaying it in my head as much as I was before, but like it's anytime I've had moments just to myself, it runs over in my head, and bedtime is one of those, especially in the middle of the night.
Let me just say also, before we get into anything else and before later we're going to get in the emails and we'll read some of them, but thank you to everybody who wrote in. It was overwhelming, the amount of emails that we got that specifically, and you know that it is a widespread thought because everybody wrote it independently, that how much the show means to you, how much you really appreciate us being able to model good dialogue, especially when we disagree on issues, but also specifically the idea that we are not characters. We are not just characters for you guys. And many, many people wrote in with examples of how and why you guys care so much about us, for which is a tremendous compliment. And thank you to everybody who did so.
I disagree. I work really hard to be a character. I work really hard to be a weird cameo character actor in this little sitcom we're doing and my life. Quit trying to humanize me. Just appreciate that I'm the Christopher Lloyd of this universe.
We do, darling. We do.
We do.
But yeah, so I'll be in Seattle next week. The week after that, back here. Then Florida for my volleyball tournament. Then back here. And then I am overseas for the rest of the year. So I'll be checking in from a bunch of different countries.
Into España.
To start. Yep. And then we're bopping around. So.
Bip bop.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel back on the air last night, capping a tumultuous week, but not without lingering questions about the future of broadcast television, government censorship, and indeed the bounds of good taste. Kimmel was suspended by ABC that last week after controversial comments he made during his monologue last Monday about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. His remarks concerned what he described as efforts by, quote unquote, the MAGA gang to frame Kirk shooter as anything but one of them. This kicked off a furor on the right, which only got louder when Utah investigators revealed more details about the shooter and his motives, like we talked about last week. Yet it was the FCC Commissioner, Brandon Carr, who went further on Benny Johnson's podcast, saying that ABC stations have an obligation to the public benefit, which may well have been violated by Kimmel and needed to be addressed by ABC. Later that day, the network called the comments ill-timed and thus insensitive, saying that his suspension was meant to prevent further inflammation of an already tense national moment. Pushing this further were announcements by two affiliate groups, Nexstar and Sinclair, which said that they would be preempting Jimmy Kimmel. Sinclair went even further, saying that they would not put him back on the air unless he publicly apologized and made a donation to Turning Point USA, Kirk's organization. Over the next few days, there was widespread pushback from political groups, entertainers, constitutional scholars, and advocates for free speech. Some ABC affiliate station groups, even before the suspension, had made it known that they were unhappy with Kimmel. But after nearly a week off the air, less than a week off the air, I think he missed.
He was 6 days off, including the weekend, something like that. Yeah. Like I didn't even have time to consider whether I was going to boycott Disney or not before he was back on.
Disney ABC announced that he would return, and so he did on Tuesday night. Following what they described as thoughtful conversations with Kimmel, the show was reinstated. Not all of the affiliates ran it, including Nexstar and Sinclair, which are about 22 to 24% of ABC's market share in various markets, including Seattle, DC, and Portland, Oregon, amongst others. We will begin with you, Mr. Andrew Heaton. Is this a run-of-the-mill controversy? The latest battle between network and affiliates, or a First Amendment case of government censorship? And if it's all three, in what proportion?
Yes, it is all three, although I'm not going to call it run-of-the-mill. I think that this is a little different and a little worse than some of the predecessor things, but it's not as if nothing like this has ever happened. But it's all bad, and let me state up front, I hate everyone involved in this. I hate every player in this entire equation. Screw Jimmy Kimmel he is a funny, talented comedian, and when I see him these days, he's turning into a pundit, and I want him to be a comedian. And then most recently, with the comments that you note, Justin, he wasn't even being an accurate pundit. He was going with a kind of reflexive blue sky brain of, it was a crazed shooter, therefore it must be a conservative that did it. which is not what the evidence was at the time he was saying that. I don't know where he was getting that other than just kind of a bad faith perspective that was also tasteless. So screw him in that regard.
I don't think that's what he said.
Didn't he say that it was the MAGA gang that
he disputes it? I think
what he said
even in his statements last night, he was unclear in his point. But Jen, go ahead.
Yeah, because he was saying that the MAGA people were doing everything they could to say that he wasn't one of them, which I think they absolutely were. Before we knew who the shooter was, before we knew anything, the MAGA gang was saying, like, this is a radical leftist. And we're like, we don't even know who the fucking guy is. Like, I think that's an accurate statement. He wasn't saying it was MAGA, but he was saying the MAGA people were doing everything they could to say it wasn't one of theirs. And that I don't think is inaccurate.
I think that that's a reasonable interpretation of his comments. I still don't think it was terribly funny.
It is not how I took it when I heard it, and I watched it multiple times.
I think overall, like, it struck me as pot shots at, like, somebody just got shot. Let's make jokes about conservatives, something like that, right? So I wasn't amused by it. I wouldn't have canceled him for it. What irritates me now is he's going to get an Emmy for what was a not very funny joke. He will, like, Colbert was given an Emmy. What, was Colbert funnier? No, Colbert got canceled, so he was giving an Emmy. And Kimmel's now going to get an Emmy for a joke that was either tasteless or not funny. So I don't like any of that. But I'm much more irritated / angry / worried about the Trump administration. So let me explain why I want to say screw you to the Trump administration. They don't care about free speech. That was one of the big things they ran on, was we're the free speech guys. There were things that Trump said day one that I agreed with fundamentally. We're not going to have the government influence anybody on speech anymore. There was an executive memorandum put out day one that we are going to remove anybody from federal office who's using the power of the federal government to abrogate free speech or compel people to go in a particular. I agreed with that. Carr came out and said we can do this the easy way or we can do this the hard way, and indicated that maybe the FCC would yank Disney's license if they didn't get their people in line. And the subsequent talk that came out of this was all the shit that conservatives have been arguing about for 20 years reversed of, well, if they're going to get up a public license and they're going to abuse that with false statements that hurt the public benefit, maybe they shouldn't have a license at all. That was all non-free speech stuff. Some of the other things I heard, which, yes, are true, but Biden did some stuff like this too, like the Twitter files, things like that. Yes, it's always shitty when the government tries to affect speech. You've three options when we come to free speech. You can either not give a shit, you can care about the principle, or you can care about a team. I care about the principle of free speech. I don't care who's abusing it at the time. It's always bad. This was an abuse of that. I think it falls under the category of jawboning, which is a term we use in constitutional law in the First Amendment realm when the government tries to apply pressure to a third party in order to influence the speech of the primary party. So rather than saying, you can't say that, the government goes to the bank and says, you need to drop this guy from your bank in order to punish him for the thing we're doing. There's a case called NRA versus Volo, which goes over this, where somebody wanted to put pressure on the NRA, so they didn't go through the NRA. They went through, I believe it was the banks, and tried to squeeze the NRA out. The Supreme Court ruled, no, you can't just add extra steps to try to censor speech you don't like and then say that you've not abrogated speech. You're still affecting it. There is a high evidentiary threshold. Normally, it's very difficult to prove it. But in this instance, had it gone to court, I think that there would have been a field day with Carr's statements. Since a member of the FCC came out and said, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, like a mafioso, and had a threat that they could use to chill free speech, I think you've got pretty good grounds that the government was trying to chill free speech. So that was all bad. I didn't like that at all. And we wind up in this weird place now where we go back to square one. Kimmel's back on the air, except that he's going to get an Emmy because he's now a folk hero. And meanwhile, I think that the Trump administration's tipped the deck that it doesn't care about free speech that much. To dovetail with our topics last week, I have been very dismayed with the amount of cancel culture coming out of the conservative movement following the death of Charlie Kirk. I have joined both of you in thinking that the Charlie Kirk murder is horrible, and we do not need to have any further clarifications on that. It's very, very bad. It is a tragedy. I don't like that there are now groups that are trying to get lists of tweets together so that they can remove people from work. That's the cancel culture that everybody was inveighing against for the last 10 years. So I don't like any of this. And the whole thing's just been irritating to me. I guess the only benefit is we don't have to go to the Supreme Court now because Kimmel got reinstated. So yay.
I don't think this is over. I think that's the problem because here, I actually took a screenshot. Trump came out yesterday and said, quote, "I can't believe ABC fake news gave Jimmy Kimmel his job back. The White House was told by ABC that his show was canceled. Something happened between then and now." Then he says a bunch of bullshit. But then he comes back. This is the concerning part to me. Quote, "He is in yet another arm of the DNC. And to the best of my knowledge, that would be a major illegal campaign contribution. I think we're going to test ABC out on this. Let's see how we do. Last time I went after them, they gave me $16 million. This one sounds even more lucrative." I don't think this is over. So.
Well, what he's talking about was a defamation suit that ABC settled, right?
They sure did. They gave in to the bully.
Was the defamation suit, because this is very important from a free speech perspective, was the defamation suit being financed by him as a private citizen using his money, or was it as the president using public resources?
It was brought before he won, I think.
Okay. So, I'm glad to hear that. That at least in that instance, you don't have the president.
And that was centered around George Stephanopoulos during an interview with Nancy Mace mischaracterizing the term rape and sexual assault. He was questioning Nancy Mace about how you could support somebody who was convicted of rape, if I remember correctly, but he was referring to the E. Jean Carroll lawsuit, which found him guilty of not lying about a sexual, I don't know. I forget the exact, there was something that ABC probably could have won. What I suspect with a lot of those cases, especially the CBS case, the CBS case is probably the most ridiculous of them, because the CBS case was Trump bringing a case against CBS because they maliciously edited Kamala Harris's 60 Minutes interview to make her look better than she was. And they settled that, which is stupid. The only reason why they settled that, I think in both cases, is because they didn't want discovery. It's the same reason why Fox News settled against Dominion. They don't want discovery because if there is discovery, they have been operating a fucking undisciplined, dirty shop that would hurt their credibility on a level that would be very, very hard to come back from, especially some of their top talent. Everybody got spooked when the discovery happened in the Fox News Dominion case, where you had text messages from Tucker Carlson and people like that were then out there in the streets. The executives didn't want any more of that. And so they wound up settling these cases, I believe, because they want to avoid the long drawn out public embarrassment that would come with actually defending your principles and your free speech, because they have been operating in my opinion, super undisciplined way for a journalistic entity. And they probably have really embarrassing fucking emails and text messages that were sent on on company phones and email accounts, where they probably say all sorts of really embarrassing things that make them look bad. I think this is a culture problem that goes to it. And that's before we get to whatever anybody would like to say about government approvals of mergers and whatnot, both with CBS and everything else. But
I'm with you on the culture. Well, I think it's both. I think that there is an actual demonstrable and scary legal First Amendment issue going on here when it comes to job owning. FCC Carr's position was a government bureaucrat bullying a private network because he didn't like the speech of one of the people on it. So that's a legal thing. There is also the cultural element. That's also there. The cancel culture stuff going on. I spoke to Noam Dworman a couple of years ago. Noam Dworman is a friend of mine. He's the owner of the Comedy Cellar in New York.
Yeah.
And the way he explained it to me, if I've got the analogy right, and I really like this framework, is there's a difference between I don't like what you're saying and I'm not going to listen to it versus I don't like what you're saying and so I'm going to threaten everyone else. If they listen to you, I will hurt them. There's a difference between I don't want to watch that show versus I'm going to make it so no one else can watch that show. There's a difference between I don't want you to work at my company versus I don't want you to work at anybody else's company. And when we get into that kind of mass boycott of people based on their speech, we're in cancel culture territory. And I don't like it regardless of who's doing it or what the instigation is.
Can I float this version of it? That Brendan Carr's comments didn't mean shit at all in this, and that you had two affiliate networks that were very mad at the idea that somebody that was on their airways, that their, especially for Nexstar, their majority Republican viewers would find particularly offensive, and they were probably getting blowback for it. And they contacted the network. The network knew it very, very well that they were going to have a problem with it. And Kimmel refused to apologize and wanted to double down and then got sat down. That possibly the Benny Johnson podcast is not the clearinghouse of truth that totally frames this entire debate.
No, you're wrong. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. Wait, first, real quick. I once broke into a hotel room with Benny Johnson and put a skeleton in a bed. We can talk about that on the bonus episode if you like. But in terms of your analogy there, if I'm understanding you, Justin, you're saying kind of comparable with what happened to Colbert. And by the way, I don't think Colbert got First Amendmented out. I think Colbert got canceled because he was a show loss and a money loss. And
there were new owners coming in that didn't want to inherit a gigantic hole in the boat.
Yes.
Boy, he's still on the air.
Until May, when he's not his contract.
Yeah. But like, if it was a First Amendment thing, they would have yanked him immediately like they did to Jimmy, you know?
So
by the way, Jimmy Kimmel said that was a First Amendment thing. So if we are, drawing the line there.
Well, I think Colbert, I personally like Colbert. I wish he'd go back to doing the Colbert Report because I've not found him very funny since then. But I think that that was an economic decision, not a First Amendment issue. I do think this was a First Amendment issue. If I'm understanding the analysis that you're putting forth, Justin, it's something to the effect of this is really a dispute between the affiliates and the network looking at the bottom line of Jimmy Kimmel not appealing to their audience and cutting him loose, something to that effect.
Saying something very offensive to their audience that they wanted to have addressed in a certain way.
That is true, offensive? But you can't remove
that for you, Jen. I mean, again, this is the silo thing.
What Republicans are watching Jimmy Kimmel?
Let me finish my analogy here.
Okay.
You can't cut loose the government component of this. So I'm going to bear with me on this analogy. Okay. A guy wants to divorce his wife and another dude has an affair with his wife. The fact that he was going to divorce his wife doesn't abrogate the fact that the second guy's a scumbag for having an affair with somebody and trying to screw over the first guy. Like the fact that they might have had that in-house dispute doesn't change that they're getting bullied from the government.
I'm not saying that Brendan Carr's comments were great. We can get into my feelings about Brendan Carr's comments in a second. I'm saying that it is a possibility that I think has been almost entirely glossed over in this conversation, that this could have mechanically worked out exactly the way it did.
I think it would have. If I think you're right.
Without Brendan Carr's comments at all.
If they hadn't said anything, I think it would have looked pretty much the same. But he did say something, and that's going to have a chilling effect because that means that people that work in television and comedy are going to go, "Oh, the FCC they're floating the idea of yanking our license if we get out of line." It's going to have a chilling effect on free speech. That makes it a free speech issue.
We can get back into Brendan Carr in a second. What I wanted to do was just highlight the fact that mechanically there are other things at play here.
Yes,
Jen, to your point,
true.
What Republicans are watching Jimmy Kimmel? None on broadcast television. I concede that 150%. Here's where a lot of people were watching them: on every top conservative podcast, on Fox News that were playing that clip ad nauseum. They were very clued in on what Jimmy Kimmel said. It was portrayed as extraordinarily offensive, if not factually inaccurate, to the point of continuing to inflame an already very, very sensitive and tender situation. And they were incensed about it. Now that brings me to Brendan Carr, because let me tell you something about this administration. There are things that I think are, to be quite honest, refreshing about the Trump administration, that they sometimes will just do a thing and we'll just see what a thing looks like. The things that have been talked about in the world of government reform or conservative ideas forever. And they'll just do it. They won't talk about it or think about doing it or start a subcommittee to talk about it. They'll just do it. Sometimes that's interesting. One of my least favorite things that happens in the Trump administration is everybody pretends that they're Donald Trump. And some people, I'm going to tell you, are a lot better at it than others. J.D. Vance doesn't do a bad job. Marco Rubio, actually a more likable version of Marco Rubio when he's a little spicy every once in a while and he doesn't recede into the wallpaper. People that I don't like when they act like Donald Trump. Pam Bondi, the attorney general, who just goes out over her skis and starts talking about hate speech in a way that she has to walk back immediately. And now we have the attorney general on record talking about how a very anti-conservative idea, the prosecution of hate speech, is going to be something that the Trump administration will go forward with. And I very much do not like Brendan Carr having to go on Benny Johnson's podcast and have a day after hot take on any of this. Now, the idea of what he said, I think, is incredibly fucking stupid. I think it's incredibly reckless. I think he has been stupid and reckless. I think if he were actually to try and prosecute the ideas that he had, he would be facing a lot of case law that would not allow him to do anything that he suggested that he wanted to do. I think that there is a way, looking at the same light that we can look at what Jimmy Kimmel said and say, nah, you weren't really saying that the shooter was MAGA, even though it was unclear. You can look at what Brendan Carr said and intuit what he wanted was for Jimmy Kimmel to say probably something along the lines of which he said last night, where he said that he would never want to insinuate that there was a political motivation there, and he very much wants to make it clear that this that was not what he wanted to say. That was not the point that he was trying to make. That the consequence of him not doing that would be looking into the licenses. I don't think that's not how I read it. But if we're going to get into the second guessing and parsing of the language, I think that you could probably put it in there. I think it is ridiculous. I think that they have made Jimmy Kimmel a martyr on a level that was totally unnecessary. I do think that Jimmy Kimmel was at the very least, reckless in the subject matter that he thought he could joke about, because in his insular bubble that is to the left of JoJo from Jersey's Blue Sky account, he didn't realize what Charlie Kirk meant to people. Like many people on the left did not realize what Charlie Kirk meant to a large enough portion of this country that 200,000 people went to Phoenix over the weekend to pay homage to him in a celebration of life that filled a football stadium. So I think it's a very, very unfortunate situation. It's a very telling situation of our modern world. And what I would probably, and I've spent more time talking about than any of this, is that it does actually provide a stress test of our modern media ecosystem and where we are right now with broadcast television, how much power affiliates have, how much power the network has. I do think that this affiliate fight is something that's going to be very interesting to see how it resolves. And there are a lot of things under the surface here that go beyond whatever the First Amendment questions are, including retransmission rights, the cap on how many stations can be owned by any one affiliate network, which Nexstar wants to have raised in their acquisition of Tegna, which is another affiliate network, partially because, that happens in the world of regulation. When you have a declining market, you usually raise caps for things like that. But two, and this was reporting from Ethan Strauss on Substack, Nexstar wants to more explicitly brand their stations as conservative. And the part of the pushback against them raising that cap are from Newsmax and One America News Network, because they believe that if there is a free alternative in those markets to a conservative programming, then they are going to be eroded in market share. I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff here that goes beyond Benny Johnson's podcast is the only thing that I would like to have taken out of this conversation.
I mean, there does. I hope that this is a wake-up call to Americans, at the very least, that local stations are not local. Because 20% of America is not able to get this show now because they're owned by a conglomerate. But going back to what you were saying about, the FCC commissioner kind of word vomiting on a podcast being somewhat equivalent with Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel is a comedian. The FCC commissioner doesn't get to weigh in on what someone can or cannot say, doesn't get to demand apologies, doesn't get to go on a podcast and even suggest that a license is going to be pulled because of someone saying something on the network. They're not equivalent at all. So
I would not insinuate that they were equivalent in any way. And so if that came off as me saying that they were the same person, then no, they are not.
I didn't think that you were saying that they were the same person, but even making that comparison, like Jimmy Kimmel can word vomit on his television show.
I was only saying that in terms of parsing his language, but yes, I agree. The FCC commissioner, I am fucking fully on board. The FCC commissioner should do less podcast hits and should probably not be on Twitter. I do not think that there is somebody with that amount of power in the country that should be flippant with a day after hot take opinions at all whatsoever. There is a poise and precision are a price of power, he said alliteratively. And he has lacked all of that in this scenario. And I think that it is very fucking bad.
Well, and I see what he did as a threat. They were using licenses for threats in the first instance. Now the president of the United States is threatening to sue ABC because their campaign contributions are illegal by having Jimmy Kimmel on the air. Like, these are public threats against someone for what they are saying. And in Trump's Truth Social the other day, he was saying that NBC, we want you to get rid of Fallon and Seth Meyers as well. So right now, Trump and his people are going after the bigs. I know Fallon is like,
yes, the progressive hot rod that is Jimmy Fallon. He's the most neutral one of the bunch.
If you're offended by Jimmy Fallon, you have the thinnest skin ever. But that is Donald Trump, right? So what I'm seeing right now is we are in the first year of this administration. They're going after the bigs right now. I'm hoping that by ABC putting Kimmel on the air, because they are being threatened by the Trump administration. They are taking a risk. And Jimmy even said this himself last night. They are taking a risk by putting him back on the air. And so I'm hoping that this is the first sign that the corporations are going to stop just paying off the Trump administration. I mean, he's coming back for another bite at the apple with ABC. I'm hoping ABC is going to draw a red line here and go through the court cases because they can afford it. I do think at some point, though, when the bully can't get the people he wants to go after, he's going to start going after lower level people. And Jimmy alluded to this as well. Like, podcasters right now, we don't need a license to be on the air. But will the FCC commissioner want to license people? Would we be given a license? Like, but the thing is,
that's fucking ridiculous.
I don't think it is. I think we have to stop this here. I think that if Trump is able to be successful in taking people with the money and power of Colbert, or at least that's their perception of it. But like Kimmel, I think this one is crystal clear. I think you're wrong, Justin. This isn't the affiliates being like, oh, he said one sentence and we have to pull him off the air immediately. I think this had a lot to do with the FCC commissioner's threats.
The Benny Johnson podcast, the number one clearinghouse of news and information.
I don't give a flying fuck where the venue was. I don't care that Trump is doing it on Truth Social, which like only MAGA pays attention to. It matters that it was said in public. These are public threats. And obviously, like, I didn't even know who Benny Johnson was until this, but it got around to me, didn't it? So these public threats, they go public, they go viral. The threat was made. It was definitely received.
So you saw the Benny Johnson podcast, but it's ridiculous that conservatives would be mad about something on a show that they don't watch with Jimmy Kimmel.
I think it's ridiculous to think that they would pull him off the air immediately when conservatives are all, they're all victims right now. So for that one thing that I think minus the FCC commissioner's threat, like, no, I don't think that this would have happened, because right now the MAGA gang they are offended by everything. So are they going to pull everyone off the air? No, they didn't. They only pulled Jimmy Kimmel, and that was a specific threat
Disney
by the FCC. Yeah, I know.
And then put him back on.
Yeah, they did. So can I just finish what I'm saying? I let you guys talk. Thank you. I'm just hoping at this point that ABC, by putting them back on the air, is possibly one of the corporations that has the money and the power. I hope this is a sign that they're going to start fighting back so that it doesn't get to the point that the Trump administration keeps winning and can come for the lower level folks next. Because I don't think he's going to stop. And so that's where I'm getting some hope out of this situation. But overall, I think it's all dreadful. And the fact that the FCC commissioner still has a job after this is awful. So now you may speak, Justin.
Can I say this is my favorite form of government censorship? Dunderheaded comments in public. Power rankings, quick power rankings on government censorship. My favorite, from favorite to least favorite. Dunderheaded comments in public that can warrant immediate reaction. 2, less favorite than that. Appointing people to provide private pressure to private companies like Twitter and YouTube, as Google admitted yesterday, to silence and deactivate people in new media, not prospectively do it, but
I've done a whole episode on that. That's not good either.
Yeah. Can you let me finish?
No.
Number 3, least favorite of all, Hillary Clinton saying, why can't we just drone Julian Assange? That's my least favorite version of government censorship, is drone bombing. So number 1, dunderheaded podcast comments. Number 2, private pressure. Number 3, droning. That's my power ranking for government censorship in terms of how much I like it.
You know, I think I agree with you, Justin. If we're going to rank it, this thing that I don't like, yes, I agree with. I agree with the gradient that you've put forth as the as the areas that we could be most or least concerned about. Yes.
It really drives me up a wall. The Kimmel, the 28-minute 2-segment Kimmel deification.
It was long.
The thing that drives me up the wall about this is I think the amount of people that actually give a shit about free speech is much less than we think. And I don't like that, because I do give a shit about free speech. The people that are on the fuzzy end of the lollipop always want free speech. The people that are in power can flip real quick. And we'll see it here when a Democrat's in office. There'll be a lot of people right now that are in favor of free speech that are suddenly going to have an idea that, well, if it affects the common good and it's a dangerous idea, blah 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 blah. I think this is one of the things America got right, and that we are a shining example to the world on. We are great on free speech as a country. We're better than every other country in terms of free speech. We're definitely better than Britain on free speech. I don't want to see that erode. And so it bothers me, like the conservatives were right when they were inveighing against free speech during the Biden years, both in cancel culture form and with Twitter files and stuff like that. They were correct. It is disheartening to see many of them flip once they're in power or once their enemies are at the brunt end of it. It's very disheartening to see that. I wish people would be more committed to a principle than hating the opposing team. I love free speech more than I hate my enemies.
Yeah, if you have principles that change with the change of an administration, you don't have principles. And I think we're just seeing that with a lot of people right now. And I'm just disappointed in everyone right now. These last 2 weeks have just been gnarly. Like, both sides are just like, what is happening in this country? It's just one disappointment after another.
There is one element, if I were to devil's advocate the no, Brendan Carr was right position, it is that we have talked before that all of conservative media is predicated on the idea that they are lying to you because they control the means of mainstream information. So turn to me and I will give you what they won't tell you. This is the beginning of AM radio. This is Rush Limbaugh. This is Fox News. This is everything else that's come from that. In the DNA, the first strand is because they control this, they are lying to you. Now I have worth. This is why you are tuning into me. This is why you are looking at me. And regardless of whether you agree with it, I don't know if anybody would disagree with that prescription. Inherent to that is the idea from the conservative perspective. Why do we license, if not outright pay in the terms of public media, to create a mouthpiece specifically and strictly for ideas from the Democratic Party. And as the post-2016 late night programs have been the tip of the spear on, you see last night, Stephen Colbert. Who was Stephen Colbert's guest? Gavin Newsom. When's the last time that they had a Republican governor on? Very rarely. When's the last time that there were other people? That this is a mouthpiece for one party's idea, and that there should be some reckoning for public, if the public does not agree that one party's ideas are the things that should be going out nearly unquestioned, then why shouldn't there be some kind of reckoning?
This is so absurd. The Republicans have all the power in this country. They've won the presidency. They've won the Congress. Like the fact that the idea that their message isn't getting out because the comedians don't like Trump. This is absurd. I'm so sick of the victimization that is being portrayed by these conservatives. Their message is out.
Longer than that.
I'm aware, but their message is out. So the idea that Jimmy Kimmel, because he doesn't like Donald Trump, because he doesn't like the level of cruelty and lawlessness in this administration and is daring to talk about it, it doesn't make him an arm of the DNC if he doesn't like this administration. I'm not in the DNC because I am disgusted by this administration. So no, I don't buy it. The conservatives are not the victims here. They are the powerful ones here. Enough. Just enough.
Well, I do think what
he's
Justin is
not part of the DNC.
He's not part
Jimmy
of the DNC.
Kimmel.
He is a comedian. He's been a comedian for 20 years on this show.
Justin is saying that I think has some validity is the underlying logic to why the FCC exists. So it was originally the Federal Radio Commission. That was the antecedent to the FCC. Then it became the FCC with the advent of television or maybe during the New Deal. I don't remember the exact timeline there. But the underlying logic to the FCC when it first started, which is still there today, is that there is a limited amount of bandwidth on public airwaves. They're not infinite. Therefore, because it is a zero-sum resource, it needs to be a public resource and it has to serve a public value. And so the licenses which the government will pass out on those broadcast airwaves are contingent upon the stations and channels providing public value. It's part of why we had the fairness doctrine up till 1989, which I disagree with. But that was the underlying premise to it. I do think that the FCC is to a great extent today redundant. I don't really know how much we need them at this point, other than like keeping swear words out or like making sure that softcore porn doesn't come onto broadcast air, because it doesn't apply to any other medium. It doesn't apply to cable television. When I worked at Fox Business, we voluntarily obliged by FCC guidelines, but we had no legal requirement to. Podcasts have no such requirement because they're not on public airwaves. So they're like the underlying construct to the FCC is that you have to be providing public value, and it can't just be an echo chamber or something like that. But I would respond with, well, then maybe we should just get rid of the FCC. I think part of the problem here is that we are in a system now where we have a much larger media ecosystem, which is great. It's much harder to muzzle people, which is great. And to some extent, the FCC is atavistic in that regard. So maybe we should just auction off things and have broadcast, treat it like grazing rights or something like that, where you bid for it for a 10-year contract, as opposed to having somebody come in and go, we've decided you're sufficiently providing public good. We think that you're sufficiently providing Republican and Democratic perspectives like that. I don't really trust the government in general to do that anyway. I'd rather just be agnostic and acknowledge that it's a smaller part of the overall media ecosystem. It is
part of the reason why a lot of this content was apolitical at a certain point, not only for commercial gain, that people don't want politics at a certain point, but that you would stay afoul of this. And that has certainly not been the case, at least in some sort of public broadcast. Let me bring up this idea. I was at a party on Saturday with a bunch of libertarians that this happened. And you know, they're really about ideas. Boy, do they focus on ideas. Bowls of Tylenol all over. But one of their ideas to this was just sell the spectrum. Why does the FCC exist? Just auction off the spectrum, pay down the debt, and let's just be out of this world where we're providing
sounds good to
free
me, man.
licenses for these television networks, where the only real thing is this handshake agreement that there's a public benefit, and so the government doesn't really gain anything for having it. It just is kind of in this thankless position where they're a cop, but their only recompense is to pull the license, which factually will kind of never happen because of our free speech laws.
I think that that's actually a very good plan, and we do live in a new media ecosystem. Like, I don't know off the top of my head what the stats are on actual broadcast radio versus internet radio or satellite radio, but internet radio and satellite radio don't have bandwidth scarcity issues. So if you're listening to, what is it, Siri? I can't remember what the thing is.
Sirius.
Is it Sirius? Thank you. If you're listening to Sirius, it doesn't apply to you. YouTube doesn't, FCC doesn't regulate YouTube, all those different things. I think that's a pretty good way to do it. Can I match your Tylenol with additional Tylenol?
Go.
Okay. I had Glenn Wild, not a libertarian incidentally, on my program a few years ago. And he posited a fascinating tax structure where if you have a public resource which is being used by the private sector, you set the tax rate, let's say 10% corporate tax rate for public airwaves. You, the person that has that lease, you dictate what you think the value is, and you pay taxes on that accordingly, with the proviso that anybody can come in and buy it at that price. So if CBS says, we think that the CBS broadcast waves are worth $7 billion, we will pay taxes on the $7 billion annually. That's totally fine. We trust you on that, CBS. But if somebody else goes, we think it's worth $8 billion, well, we'll buy it. You have to sell it to them at that price. And it makes everybody be very honest in terms of what they think it's actually worth. It becomes a very efficient way of allocating the tax structure. Tylenol.
These ideas are fine. I just think that while we do have an FCC, we cannot allow them to even threaten to pull a license because anyone isn't pro-Trump enough.
I 100% agree. I would quibble on the framing maybe a little bit that it was a insufficiently pro-Trump comment. I do think that what Brendan Carr, even in any interpretation of it, was he was reacting to stuff about Charlie Kirk, not necessarily about Donald Trump. I will also say, to Heaton's point of view, the joke was fucking terrible. Like, the idea that people were saying like, oh, he was joking. It's like, the thing that was the most controversial, I'll charitably call a setup, but it wasn't really a setup. It was just more of kind of an aside that was poorly worded. He even admitted it was poorly worded, that made the insinuation that in a very sensitive time that a MAGA person killed Charlie Kirk. Like, that is obviously how a lot of people heard it, whether or not he meant to say it in that way. But it is incumbent on the comedian to get their point across. That is really, before you get into any kind of...
Also, just be fucking funny. That's your goddamn job.
The joke that came after was funny. The thing about...
The joke was that Donald Trump doesn't care about Charlie Kirk dying. That was the joke. The joke afterward was that that Donald Trump doesn't care about Charlie Kirk. It was
something like the fifth stage of grief construction, something like that. Like, that was funny. I laughed. So he set it up bad. It was a botched joke. Like, we can't be having this over a botched
at this point,
joke.
I'm not angry on the politics of this part, Jen. It's just, as a comedian, I have become so reflexively angry at Clapter. So even if it might very well have been a very funny monologue otherwise, I'm just like, quit doing Clapter. That's it. That's all I'm saying is I'm very tired of Clapter.
Again, it gets us into this siloed world where we can't even fathom the broadly coalitionally left side of the country that had no relationship with Charlie Kirk and only knew of Charlie Kirk in a negative or annoying way, has become increasingly annoyed that we are still talking about the unfortunate death of a minor celebrity. That's the nice side, right? Obviously, there's, more grody stuff that we went over last week, but let's say that there's just, when you didn't know anything about him, there's another side of the country that thinks he's Martin Luther King. And so if you're going to do a joke of, ha, 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 LBJ doesn't care that Martin Luther King is dead 3 days after he dies, like, it's going to be looked at by a large portion of the country in a certain way.
Maybe they should be looking at Trump, who did make those really insensitive comments. How are you doing, Mr. Trump, after your friend died? Oh, I'm okay. Did you see the beautiful ballroom? Jimmy didn't make that up. He played the clip. That wasn't him being insensitive. It was Trump being insensitive. Why isn't MAGA mad at that?
Because there's nobody in the MAGA coalition that genuinely believes that Trump didn't care about Charlie Kirk when he came out and did an address from the Oval Office seconds after he died.
I don't think Trump cares about anybody.
Or there might be a little bit of the cult of personality about Trump to where just he can do no wrong.
Sure, but it's like, all right. I mean,
he gave a speech at Charlie's memorial where he barely talked about Charlie. Instead, he talked about fucking tariffs and stuff. It's always all about Trump. And that was Jimmy's point. It's like Trump immediately turned it to his construction project when he was asked, how are you feeling that your friend died? It was Trump that was insensitive. And yes, Jimmy botched the joke. I get it. But he doesn't have to be funny in order to keep the show. He was yanked off the air immediately.
Yes, by his network.
Which brought him right back.
Yes.
I've got to, okay, for somebody that has been inveighing on Carr the entire episode and on the side of the Trump administration's cracking down on free speech, I need to ask a very embarrassing question at this point that I don't know the answer to.
Hell yeah.
What is the timeline of when Carr said that on Benny Johnson's program versus when Disney yanked him? Because if Disney yanked him beforehand, it does soften the blow quite a lot. If Disney yanked him afterwards, there's a lot of room for there being government influence. Do either of you know? I don't.
A lot of this was kind of bang bang, as I understand it. Carr said it, I think it was it was Wednesday, right? Because we didn't talk about it at all last week. We record on Tuesday, so this happened on Wednesday. I believe that Carr had those comments Wednesday day, and then the affiliates, so Disney makes the announcement that he's indefinitely suspended. Then Nexstar comes out with a statement. Then Sinclair comes out with a statement. Now, my headcanon on this, based on reading the reporting, is that the actual reason why Jimmy Kimmel got suspended was because he had a dispute with his network about how he was going to handle his monologue in the show that he was about to record. Everybody was on their way to the studio to shoot that episode for that night. And then ABC pulled the plug up to the top level of ABC. Like Bob Iger decided, don't do it. And part of it was he was going to double down on that what he said wasn't wrong, that what he said was being misinterpreted, and that and then he was going to go after Brendan Carr in the same way that he went after Brendan Carr on the episode last night. And that there obviously was some back and forth with the affiliates. Sinclair looking to make it a bigger deal. Nexstar and Sinclair still fighting with this, still fighting with their network over this. I'm on the record saying that I don't think that what Carr said was good. I think it is terrible. I hate the fact that he has to, that he feels the need that he needs to be a political pundit from the position of power that he has. I just don't think that we can totally erase the agency of what has been a fraught relationship of network and affiliates for as long as there's been television. And we're in a very desperate place with that relationship right now, as retransmission rights are dying between the broadcast network and cable. And we're looking at a shrinking broadcast viewership in general. Like, all these businesses are facing tremendous headwinds, and they're all reckoning with the idea of like, well, it's less profitable to do hashtag resistance content, of which Jimmy Kimmel was the prince of. So maybe the product that he is selling is not quite as valuable as it was back in the day. When, by the way, when we're talking about all these mergers, like, oh, the Trump administration is going to hold these mergers over their hand. Trump approved mergers with NBC, CBS, Disney, and Sinclair during the first administration. And all of that entire time, all of those companies were making a lot of money blistering Donald Trump on their airwaves every single night. And Trump was just as pissed about it, except he was on Twitter doing it instead of Truth Social.
Well, and he didn't stuff his administration full of loyalists that would do everything that he wanted. This is a different administration. I think one of the main problems that we might be having in this conversation, not just like with us, but as a country, is that we're really talking about two different things. We're talking about decisions and how they're being made in media, and we're talking about the inappropriate actions of the Trump administration. In this case, they did merge for a while, but I think just the fact that the threat was made by the FCC commissioner is scandal enough. Like that's the main focus for me.
I would, you know what? I will give Trump applause, follow up on this. If he fires Carr and says, I meant what I said, when we're not going to tolerate government employees threatening the private sector over speech. If he fired him, I will give Trump applause. I take your point, Justin, that it is a complex system. There's lots of economics moving there. I don't disagree on that. I've come up with a better analogy than my earlier weird one about adultery. Let's say there's a grocery store that is probably going to go under anyway. And then the mob comes by and says, hey, really great grocery store. Be a shame if something happened to it. And then it went under for economic reasons anyway. The fact that it was going to go under economically doesn't make it okay that the mob threatened them. So that's my interpretation of the
like that analogy.
I totally sign on. And I condemn the mob. And I maintain that there are economic reasons why this happened that would have existed beyond Benny Johnson's podcast.
I think I agree with that broad statement.
Isn't there a congressman named Benny Johnson? Because that seems to be scrambling my brain.
Ron Johnson?
No, I think Benny Johnson. I think he's a black member of the House, or at least he was. Am I imagining that? Let me look it up while you...
I can't imagine there's multiple people with the surname Johnson in America. That seems like a very specific...
Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong is where you need to go to yell at me. Pay me, please.
There's Mike Johnson, Julie Johnson, and Hank Johnson.
Oh, it's Congressman Benny Thompson.
Yeah. This week on our bonus episode, this one's just for Heaton.
Yeah, I know.
I didn't read it.
Broadway is dying. The Great White Way is withering. What will Marie's crisis think of it? We go to our correspondent of all things musical, and that is Andrew.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do my
Patreon episode.
I'm not going to do your jobs for you guys, but you have an incredible opportunity to needle me on this one. There's some real Heaton principles that are coming into conflict that you could add some tension to if you wanted to.
Heaton,
Justin's ready.
When I saw this story, it was just like a meatball coming over the plate. Like I am ready. I am gripping my bat and I am already flexing like fucking Mark McGuire on Andro.
Yeah, this should be a fun one.
All right. Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong. Jen, now it's your turn. On Tuesday, Donald Trump called off the scheduled meeting with Democrats Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. This reportedly at the urging of Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, and John Thune, the Majority Leader of the Senate. The meeting would have represented a last-ditch, if unlikely, way to derail a government shutdown, which is set to begin next week. Last week, Republicans advanced a clean continuing resolution, which would kick the can on funding down the road for 3 months. That does not have the votes in the Senate, as Democrats are refusing to support it unless Republicans agree to roll back portions of their one big, beautiful bill, which is, let's say euphemistically, unlikely to happen when the Democrats are a minority in both congressional chambers. We have mentioned on the show, this is leaked out, even though we haven't done a shutdown topic. Jen is so passionate about this. Her opinion is leaked out in other segments. You are on the record in believing that this shutdown is a bad idea for Democrats. As we speak today, will it happen? And if so, what will Democrats get out of it and how long will it go?
I'm still not 100% convinced that it's going to happen. It's looking likely. But basically what the House is doing is they're playing a game of legislative chicken. And so they did pass a continuing resolution. And let's just take a beat to talk about the miracle that is this continuing resolution in the House. Because the Republicans, with the exception, I believe, 2, all voted for it. And the Republicans have thrown a fit over continuing resolutions over and over and over again. They're usually the ones that are bringing us to the brink of a shutdown. They fucking voted for this. And I read the continuing resolution. It truly is clean. It's clean. It's clean. It's truly clean. They make some adjustments that no one is against. So they added money for security for lawmakers and members of the Supreme Court. Fucking fine. Everyone supports it. So it really is a clean bill. It passed the House. I'm amazed by it. It extends the Biden era funding levels. So the Democrats did negotiate this. Like, it did have their input in it. And so the best case scenario for the Democrats at this point is that we have continuing resolutions until 2029. Like, this is the best thing that they can hope for, right? So this passes the House, and then Mike Johnson. So in the congressional record, they are supposed to come back on the 29th, but they're saying that they're not coming back until after the shutdown would happen. So they're daring the Senate to just pass this thing. I'm looking at it and going, yeah, fucking pass this thing, because it's so obvious the thing to do. But the Democrats want to attach dingleberries to it. What's amazing about this is this is a strategy that the Republicans have employed, and this is what was happening in our previous shutdown. So in the 2013 shutdown, the Republicans tried to attach dingleberries that would have harmed Obamacare. It didn't work. Then in the 2018-2019 shutdown, Trump wanted money for his border wall to the point that the House and the Senate had passed a continuing resolution and Trump vetoed it. So it was Trump that was doing this and he got nothing. So the strategy doesn't work. So what do the Democrats do? They decide to try that failed strategy. And what are they fighting for?
It just reminds me of the Arrested Development, like, open marriage thing. It's like, of course, it never works, but maybe for us.
Maybe for us. Which brings me to, like, okay, what are these dingleberries they are fighting for? Because there was some truly terrible stuff in the big, beautiful bill. Most notably for me, the authorization of indefinite detention on American soil. So if they were attaching something to stop that, maybe we could dance. That's not what they're doing. Instead, they want to extend the subsidies for people who buy their health insurance on the Obamacare exchanges, but not the ones that were in the original law. Those are in no danger. They want to bring back the COVID emergency era subsidies, which I don't know if anyone's noticed, we're not in that emergency anymore. So they want to bring back that emergency funding. They also want to do something about the Medicaid cuts, which I agree is a problem, but those don't even go into effect until after the midterm elections. We don't need to do this right now, and we certainly don't need to shut down the government. So the stuff that they're even fighting for is just like, you don't need to do this right now. This is not, they're not swinging for the fences. They're not going for the important things. But listening to Chuck Schumer, and I have this all in my congressional dish that it's being edited right now. I have to put it out because I have to just get this out because it's making me insane. But I was listening to Chuck Schumer, and they're not really fighting for those things. They're fighting to have the Republicans negotiate with them. It's all like, the Republicans are mean and won't negotiate with us, and we want to be invited to the table, even though the fucking funding
horrible Chuck Schumer impression. Do better.
I don't do impressions.
Do your New York accent. Come on.
That was impression of a baby, because he sounds like a baby. He sounds like the meanies aren't going to let us play. And so until we get to come into their clubhouse, we're not going to do what they want.
After years of white glove diplomacy where we've done nothing but expend the best possible foot forward, the Republicans are now refusing to talk to us.
They will not negotiate on funding when the funding being extended is the funding they negotiated together. I just can't handle the stupidity of it. And so they did take a vote on the House CR, which again, clean, and only John Fetterman voted for it. So that's not a good sign. They are able to vote on it again, so it's not officially dead. But right now, Fetterman's the only one being like, this is stupid, we can't do this. And his reasoning is just as sound now as it was in March, which is that when you shut down the government, the Constitution doesn't allow the White House, the executive agency that Trump is in, that doesn't get shut down. They get their power directly from the Constitution. So Trump stays at work. And what happens is Russell Vought, who is in charge of the Office of Management and Budget, he gets to decide who's an essential worker and who is not. This is the same man who was in the agency above DOJ. who has made it his mission to slash and burn this government. So if you are in the opposition party and your job is to preserve this government, shutting it down is the worst possible thing you can fucking do. And once they have it down and once Trump has this power, I don't know what makes the Democrats think that he's going to want to give it back. He's actually incentivized to keep it shut down. And we know, based on the last time we had a shutdown, that Trump is willing to veto whatever Congress does if it serves his.
And he can just blame the Democrats for it. I'd like the government to come back. The Democrats are the holdouts here. Sorry, America. The Democrats are fucking it up.
It's true.
And by the way, and we're going to be, I swear to God, Jen, I actually need for you to prepare yourself and maybe like do some calming meditative techniques. Because
I'm taking 4 days off because I'm going to lose my mind. Yeah.
When the midterms happen and we see ads that are literally the opposite version of every ad that we have seen of like, you know, they voted for the Schumer shutdown. This is a thing that Democrats have blistered Republicans on forever. And now we're going to see it on the other side, especially in these swing districts where there are people that are like, wait, what the fuck? Why are we shutting the government down? Doesn't make any sense. Like the Democrats are going to get fucking punished for it. And it's going to be Freaky Friday. I can't believe that we are here. And let me just put a little bit of English on what Jen said. The Democrats' point here is do something, right? And so what the Republicans are doing, and I think very smartly, is making the most appetizing version they can of do nothing. Mm-hmm. Could you do nothing right now? Like, just don't do anything. We'll give you everything that you would want to do nothing. Right. Like, because the Republicans, when you control both houses, you make the rules. Like, you have no actual power when you are in the minority on both sides and you don't have the presidency. You're out of power. You don't have anything. You have no gas. You have no cards. You have no metaphors. That's it. All you have is the best you can do is hope for a clean resolution.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, this is terrible. Heaton.
I've got questions for you both. We've had several we've had several government shutdowns. The first one that I'm aware of, at least in my lifetime, is the Gingrich shutdown, although we've had several since then. Does it ever actually benefit the party that's doing it? Because I have it in my mind that it always backfires. Like Gingrich
never worked.
Yeah, Gingrich didn't get clout because of the shutdown. He got clout before the shutdown, right?
Yes.
Like, so no one actually benefits from it. And then, from the logic from what so you're both agreeing on that?
One little asterisk.
All right.
If you are an outsider, it does bolster your cred in a district that you probably would have won anyway.
So it might individually help you as a member of Congress, but it doesn't help your party or the country?
No.
Great.
Not at all.
What a terrific incentive system that this is. Okay, great.
Yes.
This is good to know. All right, that's question number one. Question number two is this. Okay, let's just I agree with your analysis, Justin, and that you can't, and Jen, I agree with your analysis as well, that you can't really do anything if you're the minority party. You can basically try to get in amendments and name post offices and then just make noise. That's kind of what you can do, right? So they seem to be going, well, this is the only tool that we've got. If I were going to pick a tool, like if I were going to pick a thing, like if I was we're going to shut down the government to try to soak up all of the oxygen in the room in terms of the American media sphere, I think what I would do is one of the following two things. I would, again, this is just politics. I'm not even saying this is a good idea, but just politically speaking, I would go release the Epstein files. That's what I would do if I were the Democrats, or I would go, it's about corruption. There's corruption going on in the federal government and we're shutting it down until we have thorough investigations and then just throw out instances of alleged graft going on, Trump watches, ambassadorships, whatever you want. But I feel like both of those would be more gripping than what they're like. I feel like they pick a somewhat wonky inside house technocrat element to die on, and there would have been flashier things they could go with that would have more impact with the strategy they're using.
I agree that they picked weak-ass dingleberries. Like, they think the American people are going to line up to support this stuff, and I don't think they realize how wrong they are. But again, I don't even think that they're trying to get these things into law. If you listen to Chuck Schumer, he just wants to be He wants the Republicans to be nice to him. Like
he wants to be leader. He doesn't want to lose his job. The only reason why this is happening is because Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are facing rebellion inside their own caucus. And if they don't show that they have spine, then they will be removed. And they don't want that to happen. The last time that Chuck Schumer refused to shut down the government in March, you saw a bunch of people go and say, AOC, primary him. You should be running. You should be the senator from New York. And a bunch of buzz built up for it. So Schumer desperately wants to show that he can hashtag do something. He doesn't want to do it. Hakeem Jeffries doesn't want to do it. They both know it's stupid. The problem is that you have bad leaders that all they want to do is keep their job. And so they can't think of another way to direct this energy. They can't think of another issue that's going to actually just take the activist side of their party and give them something to do, a bone to chew on. And they can't sell this clean CR in the way that Jen has been able to do. And so now we're here. We're here because they can't control their party and they don't want to get replaced.
Okay, but maybe if we give them more money and power.
Here's the thing. If I were the leader of the Democrats right now, I think that they still have some power as sitting members of Congress. So like one of the things that I would do is that sometimes you're allowed to use the committee hearing rooms when they're not being used. So you can ask the Republicans to have your own hearings, even if the Republicans don't show up. And if they say no, bring chairs and tables to the front steps of the Capitol and have hearings where you set up block rockers and you invite the press and you invite C-SPAN and you just make a spectacle. They kind of did it with the Epstein victims. But like you are sitting members of Congress, you can get attention. You can call in whistleblowers who will sit out on the picnic table and be like, they won't let us do this inside the Capitol, but we'll do it outside on the steps because it's this important. The American people need to know. They also have the power to show up at any of these ICE detention concentration camps, whatever you want to call them. They have the ability as members of Congress to show up at any time and get access to those. So instead of staying in the Capitol and taking all these votes where you're getting voted down anyway, go every day. Go to a different one every day. Bring 50 members of Congress to one and then the next day and the next day. Make sure that this is at the top of the news story every single day because there's this many members of Congress who are doing it. They do have power as members of Congress, but no one is harnessing this because Jeffries and Schumer are the worst. So they do need new leadership. They should fire these people. They're terrible. But here we are.
I'm genuinely grateful for both of your analyses on this because this explains so much in terms of what's happening. When I worked, so last week on the Political Orphanage, my bonus episode is on Friday. I got drunk on scotch and just talked about what it was like working on the Hill for an hour and 40 minutes, and then regretted it after I posted it. It was like, I probably should have sat on that one for a day or two to consider some of the stuff I said about a couple of former members. But one of the things that I noted in that increasingly drunken tirade was that I would get on the elevator to go to work, and every time I got in the elevator, there'd be a couple wearing fanny packs and T-shirts. So they're clearly visiting from somewhere. And me being a chatty fellow, I would always go, "Where are you visiting from?" And they'd go, "Oh, we're from Gomorrah, Pennsylvania." And I'd go, "Oh, great, Gomorrah. That'd be Murtha, wouldn't it? Is that your member of Congress or whoever it is?" And every single person I ever asked this question, when I said, "Oh, are you meeting your member? Do you like your member?" Every single person would go like this. "You know, Congress is a bunch of crooks today. It's just, Congress is so awful. Our guy, Jed's great. We love Jed. Jed is one of the last true American statesmen. He's just a regular guy." Everybody fucking loves their member of Congress and everybody fucking hates Congress. And this phenomena that you're describing to me seems the same sort of phenomena on a party level of this is not to the benefit of the Democratic Party or the country, but it is to the benefit of the aggregate members therein. All of them individually can potentially profit from this, or at least the leadership can, without actually accomplishing anything in a more corporate collective sense.
I don't think so. I think this is going to backfire in a way that they are not prepared for because the Democrats are used to winning in the shutdowns. And so they think that they're going to win this. Like you already hear them being like, this is going to be the Trump shutdown. The Republicans own this shutdown. And it's like, not this time, dude. You're the ones attaching the dingleberry. Like you are the problem. So I think they genuinely think they're going to win this. I think they're very wrong. And I think once the government shuts down, we're possibly going to see far more chaos than we've seen in the past. Because I looked into like what actually governs what the Trump administration can do during a shutdown. Turns out it's very wishy-washy. Most of the rules we have come from a law called the Anti-Deficiency Act. But we've been operating for 45 years under an interpretation of the Anti-Deficiency Act. So what's really governing this is precedent. Donald Trump doesn't give a fuck about precedent. And this time he has a different set of people that are in his administration. He doesn't have the old guard that weaseled their way in and is kind of protecting the system. Now he's got these crazy Trump people. And so I think once they
want to do the thing. They want to do the thing that people have been talking about doing forever. That is what they want to do. That is the Trump ethos. Just do it. You can just do things.
If you look at the beginning of this administration, like I know it feels like a million years ago, but the Doge thing was a scandal where they were just firing workers left and right. You are setting up a situation where you make that what they have to do. They are required to furlough people. And the longer this goes on, like federal workers will now get back paid no matter what, because in 2019, Congress passed and President Trump signed a bill that says they'll get back paid. Contractors don't. The companies they work for, they don't get back pay. So it's like this is going to have ripple effects for people in ways that are not fair. Federal workers have already had one hell of a year. And
well, I think also they just go on vacation. Like this is, I know people in the federal government. What tends to happen is either A, they go just tell everybody that they're essential because this is stupid and nothing happens, or B, they go on leave and then we back pay them when they get back. Yeah. And so it ends up being a hassle for them, but they don't lose money. They just go on vacation for a week. They stay home, watch TV. It doesn't do anything.
Well, there's two categories of federal workers. When you get into like the last shutdown was 35 days, there are people whose budgets are so slim that when you don't get your paychecks, you're in trouble. Yeah, there are others that getting a taxpayer provided vacation, just like you say, we're wasting our money. But then again, we have to remember the contractors because we have people that work for the government, but not directly. Those companies have to find a way to make it work. They're not getting paid. They don't have guaranteed back pay. So the people that are going to pay for this, like we always talk about the Democrats and Republicans and like who wins and loses politically. The workers lose. The taxpayers lose. The tourists lose because you might have a vacation to a national park and now it's closed. If you have a vacation coming up and you're waiting for your passport, those are not going to be processed. Like it's always us who loses in this shit. And when I look at what they're fighting for in the Democratic Party, I am so underwhelmed. And yet, here we come.
This is my prediction. The only thing dumber than the Democrats not just pushing this CR and fighting on this down the road or focusing on what the actual funding is going to be is how fast they're going to cave. Because I agree with you, Jen. They're going to realize very quickly that this is that.
Wait a minute. America figured out that if we're the ones holding it up, we're the ones responsible for holding it up. Fuck. We thought that wouldn't happen.
And they're not built to say, yeah, fuck it. Who cares? It turns out that the country runs just fine without the government. There's a built-in ethos for that on the right. Like there is, the right, when the right shuts down the government, they share memes of like a volunteer mowing the lawn and saying like, see, not fucking hard, blah, 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 blah. Like, we don't need to do this. They're like, there's people who are like pumped about it. That's not the left. The left is going to obsess over everybody that Jen's talking about, every contractor and every blah, blah, blah. Like there's like, I think it might actually affect the governor's race in Virginia because you have a lot of government workers that are going to be affected by it, especially if it goes longer, where there's early voting already happening in Virginia. If that sticks, if Winsome Earl-Sears on the Republican side has a way of saying, hey, look, you should have just signed the clean CR. I'm for the clean CR. Then you are now putting an issue about government workers going to work where Abigail Spanberger has to be on the other side against her own party that is pushing this. It's one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen. It is indicative of a Democratic Party that is leaderless, idealless, and rudderless. And I can't believe that they're going to fucking do it. It really is blowing my mind.
At least Schumer will get to talk a lot.
This is why I still think there's a chance that it won't happen because the Senate will be back on the 29th and 30th. They have 2 days to talk this out. We also have time to make our phone calls and tell them they're not going to win this. But then looking at the dingleberries they're attaching and how underwhelming they are, I think they are kind of willing to cave on these. Like Schumer's also kind of said it. He's like, we're not really strict on these. We just want to be brought to the table or whatever. So I still think there's a chance they might cave on this. They did last time at the last minute.
But people want Schumer
to do something.
And now they're screwed though, right? Because if they cave, they cave. Like if they cave at this point, it means they've reneged and they are cowards that back down. Like they've backed themselves into a corner that doesn't have a way out from where I'm looking at this.
You have to fight like hero Jimmy Kimmel, like hero Bob Iger. Fight.
Yeah, this is the wrong fight, guys. This is not what you want to do.
No,
the fight that
fight every fight.
But the fight that we need right now, we have a party that is empowered that is hell-bent on destroying big parts of our government. So what we need is an opposition party that is going to preserve it. And so shutting it down is not the play. It's just strategically, if your goal is to preserve the government, don't fucking do this. But if your goal is to like politically do this theater to make it look like you're doing something, it's very selfish, really. Like they're thinking of themselves instead of the country. This is very dangerous for the country right now with these people in charge.
Because my top priority is that Chuck Schumer gets to say Senate Minority Leader
yes.
for the rest of this century so that he can continue doing it into his 90s. Oh my God.
Because also people don't realize, number one, you're going to give Donald Trump the bully pulpit for every day that this government is shut down.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to fucking use it because guess what he's done pretty effectively to the Democrats? Beat the living shit out of them with a microphone. He has done it over and over and over again, and now he's going to have an opportunity to do it. But also, it can go one of two ways. Either are good for the Democrats. Either he can do what Jen is saying and really use the power that he has afforded to him as the head of the executive branch during a government shutdown to tear down more people, or he could go the other way and he could say, you want to know what? I just think that these federal workers, like they are really, really important. So I'm going to make sure that we, via executive order that probably is unconstitutional, do something that does something that's,
oh my God, that'd be brilliant. If he did an unconstitutional thing in order to pay the federal employees so that the Democrats, oh my God.
And now the Democrats have to fucking eat it.
They have to argue about why they shouldn't pay the federal employees.
More about government employees. There's nothing that's good.
There's no good here.
And here's the other thing. They're not going to get shit. They have no leverage at all whatsoever. At all.
Because in the past shutdowns, it was the government or it was the Democrats being like, we have to reopen this. And so it's like,
yes,
that was their position. The Republicans were the ones that were like, well, we don't want the government anyway, so keep it shut down. Like, keep it shut down forever. You hear people saying that in the Republican Party. So it's like the dynamics don't work here. There's not going to be the urgency from the Republican Party to reopen, especially with federal workers being guaranteed pay. This is the first shutdown we're going to have where it's guaranteed they will be back paid. So those people aren't going to make the phone calls that they were making the last time. Yeah. I actually think it could slow it down. It's all bad for the Democrats.
And also, that CR might get less clean by the end of it.
Yeah.
Who knows whether or not that's going to be the deal after they let it go? Who knows whether or not they're like, I don't know. Maybe it's a different deal. Maybe we pass something else out of the house. Maybe there's maybe you don't get what you were going to get. Like that was the best version of it because you don't have any fucking cards.
Yeah, I've rarely seen a CR that clean. It really is. And they're lying.
I'm glad that you said that. That's very interesting because I don't have the background on it, but Hakeem Jeffries is calling it the dirty CR and everything. So
he's calling it a partisan Republican CR. No, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah. So bad.
We're not wrong pod at gmail.com is where you need to write the show. Rhythm with the Tism writes, can't do love on the spectrum because I'm married. Can't join the Libertarian Party because I'm allergic to fucking losers. Guess I'll just write 3 separate white papers on 60s radicalism, monetary theory, and bodybuilding for each of you after last week's episode.
Wow. Shots fired. Wow.
I'll take the advice.
I didn't intend that pun. Sorry.
I'm going to let time go by before we start reading the Charlie Kirk emails. Online Fame writes, back in 2020 when COVID-19 was booming and people actually cared, blind and visually impaired people had zero information about the data. For me, that was terrifying. I just left the job and was transitioning into a new one, and I was worried I wouldn't be hired since everybody was cutting back. I wanted to build a project that showed I could learn technologies that were not on my resume. That project became CVS Stats. I threw it together in about a week of coding and learned, posted a sloppy tweet and a bunch of emails, and went to bed assuming maybe 5 blind people would find it useful. The next thing I knew, Vice and a bunch of other outlets were covering it, and I was getting emails from the presidents of blindness advocacy organizations thanking me. Alongside these came death threats. Some people were angry that I was propagating the scam that is COVID-19, and others demanded my code so they could spin up their own versions and spread quote-unquote different information. It was a wild ride, but those threats hit me hard. I've accepted that anything semi-big online will attract that kind of response. I don't know why, but that's the reality. And while I love the internet, the community's tools, opportunities, and connections, it's also full of people who can be really awful.
That is an understatement. Also impressive that you were doing all of this. I can't code in general. And I believe that if this is who I'm thinking of, I think that they've reached out to us as a group and me individually before. But all the same, though, like coding in general would be very difficult for me. Coding where I'm having to do it mostly through auditory stuff seems incredible to me, but I won't wax too much onto that. Instead, I'll stick to my wheelhouse, which is, yes, the internet's full of shitheads. There are really good things on the internet. There's also just a bunch of fucks that are either deluded, unhinged nutballs, or I think more frequently, insufferable losers that are trying to claw some sense of status by fighting a ongoing cosmic crusade by tweeting on the toilet with Ass Raptor 432. And I used to have a certain amount of pity for those folks because it's probably coming from a sense of pain. Thich Nhat Hanh would tell us that those who are cruel because they are full of so much suffering that it spills out of their cup onto others. And while I think that's objectively true, just fucking learn guitar. Just fucking learn guitar and do some fucking charity work, you stupid fucks. Don't try to get status by arguing with people on the internet. When you're on your deathbed, you would rather go, God, I wish I'd spent more time in the office than I wish I'd tweeted more, for fuck's sake.
Local Story writes, I'm a student at Utah Valley University. I was present on campus at the time of the shooting, but I was in a building on the edge of campus, so I was never in any danger. I never even knew that anyone important would be on campus until a student interrupted our class saying that they got a text alert saying Kirk had been shot. It's been weird and surreal to see buildings I have classes in, sidewalks I walk on, and courtyards I study in blasted all over international news. I don't like the huge collective eye that my campus will have for, I imagine, at least through this semester. Personally, I'm scared. I'm queer and I'm in a queer relationship. Given this murder seems at least primarily motivated by Kirk's opposition to LGBTQ rights and that his mother connected his increasing support of queer rights with his hatred of Kirk, many are blaming his death on queer people and queer rights advocacy in general. A few of these things carved into the bullet casings, most prominently the "notices your bulge" copy pasta meme, in addition to the allegations that he consumed furry adult material, has led to death threats against furries. By the way, the stuff I've been finding in these articles either characterizes furries as either way more fringe and extreme than we are, exclusively about extreme kinks, including apparently pedophilia, or simply play into the adult nature of the specific things the shooter was allegedly consuming. They're all in the vein of, look at these nasty pedo furries. They're all going to turn your kids into degenerate murderers. And the results have been scary.
Sure. Yeah. And I reiterate, I feel for you. And I reiterate my position that the left did not kill Charlie Kirk any more than the right tried to brain Paul Pelosi with a hammer, or any more that furries or the gays killed Charlie Kirk. It is intellectually sloppy and morally irresponsible to try to blame the evils of an individual on an outgroup you don't like. That's how we wind up dehumanizing each other, and it begots this ongoing begets this race to the bottom. It is always better to look at people as individuals and to infer humanity on them than to view people as myrmidons in an outgroup and dehumanize them. Nothing good comes from dehumanizing other human beings, unless you're on a battlefield and you need to shoot them. And that's not one of my goals.
Of course. But I feel like if I were to put myself in this person's shoes, first of all, I'm so sorry, honey. That sounds very scary to be there and to feel threatened. I identify with that. What I would do, I don't know if this is the best advice. I would keep doing what I'm doing. If you enjoy it and you and your partner are happy, do it. But maybe be a lot more careful with how public you are about it.
In the rest of the email, he does say that he is taking steps like that.
Okay, good.
This is an abridged version of the email.
I mean, I'm kind of practicing what I preach here because I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. I'm going to continue doing Congressional Edition, We're Not Wrong, but I'm taking steps in that I'm not going to be advertising where I am and when anymore. So it's like, I think, unfortunately, we're just in these times where being realistic, protecting our physical locations is one step that we can take. I hope you can find a way to do that too. Because if you're happy, that's all that matters. I know it's hard and it's easier said than done to ignore the bigots, but it's kind of what you have to do.
Number one, the internet is only a collection of communities. And you, dear listener and writer, are one of ours, to which we offer unlimited sympathy for you being in a situation that was traumatic and awful. And I very much feel for anybody that is at that just outside of the ring of true tragedy, because it's a very awkward place to be. You were close enough that you know things that other people would not know about it, and yet you were not right there, so you can't answer questions of people that are obviously curious about something that is very terrible. Now, you are also a member of the furry community, as you said in your email, for which is obviously amorphous. I have many friends in my life that are in that world, and they are by and large extraordinarily benign if delightful gay nerds. You are, at least to me, a completely harmless community. What I will caution you, and I caution you, my dear furry friend, because I love you, is you do not want to do the Norm Macdonald meme of, if ISIS killed 50 million people, imagine the tyranny of what peaceful Muslims would face. Right now, the tragedy that people are focusing on is Charlie Kirk's death and whether or not this assassin was radicalized. I am here for you. I am here for you to be protected. And you coming with that point of view to this show is the right place to do it, because we can air it in a world of context where everything is what it is. All I would say is this is my new philosophy when it comes to turning down the temperature in America. It can only be done from inside the house. You're never going to turn down the temperature from somebody who wants to persecute you, dear listener. However, if there is an element of your community, and I would, by my estimation, assume that it is not the majority, I don't assume that it is pervasive, but if there is an element there, then you speaking up inside your own community will do more to turn down the temperature than anybody else. Much in the same way that on the right, if you want to turn down the temperature, then you have to do it yourself. You have to do it when it comes to people that you would otherwise dehumanize. And the same on any other million splintered version, because nobody is going to hector somebody else that they are diametrically opposed to be better behaved. That will not work. Not in this particular meta. The only thing that works is if we do it inside our communities. And so I would say to everybody that listens to this show, then open heart, empathy. Don't cave on what you believe, but understand that there is a bridge to be built, and it starts with you. It starts with you. And it starts with you talking to people that will listen to you, which are usually inside your own little bubbles.
And thank you for confiding in us. We love and accept you, and we love having you in our community. So thank you for sharing.
Why did the violence in the 60s stop? Right? Number one, the hippies aged out. The major fault line, much more so then, now was generational. Once the brothers and sisters of the struggle who weren't killed or imprisoned by their 30s, they settled down and took tenured positions at top universities. And number 2, the war ended.
I'm more inclined to blame it on the war than I am on anything else. I don't think it was economic. The 60s was a really big time for government expansion. You have the Clean Air Act, the Food Stamp Act, Medicare, Medicaid, HUD, Head Start, Truth in Lending Act. So I don't think we kind of got into this last week, and guys like Matt Stoller would blame a lot of the tumult on the atrophying of the social contract brought on by neoliberalism. I don't think that applies in any way, shape, or form to the 60s, given that the 60s is a time of great government expansion. So I'm going to kind of throw out the economic analysis there. The other reason that I don't think economics is really salient to it is that we seem to have these same levels of tumult and ire, albeit less deadly, throughout the Western world. Despite the fact that many countries like France, which is not a particularly cuddly place in terms of their electoral politics, do have different laws and social safety nets different than us. So I don't think that that's it. I push back against the progressives and I push back against the libertarians when we try to pigeonhole the violence into, it's either because the government has become bigger and therefore it's a winner takes all game. And if we cut back the government, there'd be less. No, I don't really think that's it. Nor do I think that it is the evil neoliberals privatize stuff. Therefore, we're all poor. Now, I think by looking at other countries, we can kind of rule that out. So the Vietnam bit makes sense to me. That follows for me. I'm also inclined to think that a lot of this stuff, I tend to think it's technological in nature. I would at least be able to point to the current environment we have where you have other countries with similar levels of tumult and ire that have very different electoral systems and very different economic systems that seem to be going through comparable things, which is why I think it's probably technological more than anything else. But I'm still a little bit stumped on the 60s as to why it stopped. Maybe everybody got used to the technology, or maybe, as you say, listener, everybody just aged out of it and the fight was gone. I don't know.
We got a few spicier versions of this, which were all the people that were out there organizing violence essentially were co-opted into the power structure of universities, and so that would be the kind of got older and more powerful.
That would be the Musa al-Gharbi perspective. Did you have Gharbi on your program, Justin, for when his new book came out?
Love having.
That's what I thought. Yeah. So al-Gharbi, I don't think he pioneered elite overproduction theory, but he certainly was my exposure to elite overproduction theory. And his theory is that when universities crank out too many people that anticipate being at the top of the totem pole, and there's not enough totem pole to share it, that those people get very disgruntled and try to tear down the system. And that the 60s was basically universities created more positions for them to kind of integrate them in and co-opt them. He also says that the reason that you get less culture war stuff in Europe compared to the United States is they have more bureaucracy. So they're able to absorb more of the would-be elites than we can do. And so because we have less sponging for them at the moment, that's where the tumult's coming from. It's a very interesting theory.
Yeah. Words, right? I think it's more that we're seeing again after the Trump attempted assassination, Republicans talking about the words spoken by media, television personalities, and influencers are engendering violence by giving open support to it. Like the last time that we heard the notion of, if every day you call somebody Hitler, are you really surprised when someone eventually tries to kill him to prevent another Holocaust? There is merit to that argument, but words are words, not violence. The shooter was the one to make the leap and convert it into action. One of the saddest aspects is how much support the action garnered from people seemingly primed with their justifications ahead of time.
Yeah.
I think to add to this, you don't have to go that far back where you have a lot of people in conservative media, some of whom I'm friends with, that were saying like the Obama administration literally wants America to fail so that it can create a socialist state on the ashes of our country. Like that was stuff floating around there. And in that same era, if somebody took a hammer to Paul Pelosi, I would not say that it is directly the response of people saying that stuff, that it's, you're raising the temperature, but it's difficult to put that culpability on them. And maybe we should all just take a step back.
I am concerned about the stuff that's being said about the left, though. Like some amorphous group called the left is being blamed for a lot of things by very, very powerful people, being called enemies. I think that this temperature on that side, that they're scaring the shit out of me over on the.
It is always a bad thing when we start trying to create gigantic faceless groups that we can attribute the actions of a handful of nutballs to. That is not a good place to be. Again, like the left didn't kill Charlie Kirk. The right didn't brain Paul Pelosi with a hammer. Like that's we need to get out, and it becomes this excuse.
I don't like using those two interchangeably.
No.
Okay. I mean, the Paul Pelosi attack was a disturbed vagrant that did not have the same kind of, at least according to the evidence that we know now, very clear, fairly consistent philosophical desire to end somebody that he thought was spreading hate. Like that was, to me, the Paul Pelosi attack has more to do with what happened in Charlotte, North Carolina, where you have a failed state that did not get somebody that clearly needed help off the streets before they did something that was incredibly violent. But I don't know.
I think maybe the point is that individuals are the ones that did this. It wasn't the left or the right. These were all done by individuals.
Yes. And the other problem I have too is that I don't think there are problems in our media. I wrote a whole fucking book on why we shouldn't be dehumanizing people. So I think I've got pretty good authority on saying I oppose it in general. When we try to like quantify who's doing it more, I think we get into a really weird territory. First, I don't think anybody's actually swayed by it. Like if you could look at the stats and go, well, actually, there's more conservatives that attack progressives for reasons of political violence. Therefore, they're the violent party. I don't think anybody actually changes their mind on it. Like how would, if we're going to get like data analytical on it, do we go, well, you have Timothy McVeigh kill 168 people. Are we doing it based on the sum total that people are killing, or are we doing it on the incidence? Like, is it a per event thing? I think that it gets so granular at that point that I don't have like an ongoing sum total in my head that I'm comparing and contrasting with. And I don't know that it would actually be useful to me or anybody else.
I mean, I would say Timothy McVeigh is a great example of right-wing violence. That is a great example of philosophically motivated right-wing violence that he believed. He took out a political position, a federal building, because he believed the federal government was overgrown, overreaching, and was, taking over the government to the point where it needed to be destroyed. I think we have seen at least, we don't know. We still don't know this, as much as we would probably like to about Matthew Crooks, but certainly for the Scalise shooter, for the second Trump shooter who just got fucking convicted yesterday in a Florida court and then tried to stab himself in the neck, Ryan Ralph, who was going to kill Trump. That was very clearly politically motivated. He has made no bones about that. I think he is also very disturbed, but he had a very clear political through line on it. And then this one, it's a clear, I mean, this Dallas thing that happened today with fucking anti-ICE on the bullet stuff. Really, to me, culturally, I'll circle back to this one more time, but like the problem I had was the United Healthcare CEO and the support for Luigi and the continued support for Luigi Mangione, where we are now abstracting a real problem we have in this country, healthcare, to the point where it would be bettered by murdering somebody in cold blood. That to me was disturbing. It was disturbing in the moment. It remains disturbing.
Ghoulish. Yeah.
And I think that's, this is where it goes from there. If there is a constituency in this country that believes that we are better off for that man being dead, the CEO, the United Healthcare CEO. Yeah. And that's, if that's the case, then we do have a permission structure to kill politicians.
Yes. And that is,
people
that is deeply disturbing. I've had a couple of conversations post Charlie Kirk where, as we talked about last week, it'll be like, well, it's bad to kill people, but, and I've kind of come around to like, I shouldn't say come around. It strikes me as the political violence version of, well, what was she wearing? And it's like, no, you don't know. I'm sorry. If you get raped, you don't go, well, she was in a slutty dress. That's not okay. No, the rape is bad, period. Political slangs are bad, period. There's no, we don't need to have a, did he or she bring it on themselves conversation. Let's just end it with political violence is bad. That's not who we are as a people. It's not going to make anything better.
Family Matters writes, I truly don't understand what's wrong with this country. I also recently had my first child in the past few years. Conservative family members were happy for us and excited. Liberal Democratic family, like my parents, one of my parents who is LGBTQ, wanted to know why we were procreating in the horrible world that is dying and ending. I think this goes to show the point of view that Justin had about Democrats not seeing a future. Everything is dour and worse than ever. No hope at all. All of this has made my wife and me both afraid to share our opinions and thoughts with anyone except ourselves. We've both been left-leaning Democrats for most of our lives, but now we find ourselves without a political home. We both have questions about specific topics and opinions, ranging from conservative to liberal, but feel like even asking them would just anger somebody, usually someone on the left. When people seem to think death and murder are reasonable options, keeping your mouth shut seems to be the only option.
Hey, to begin with, congratulations on your new baby. That's terrific. I hope you guys are really happy. I'm sorry that this is how we're learning about it, but first and foremost, congratulations on your new kid. A couple of points to add to that. I am a congenital optimist, and I think that your child's going to have a better life than you. If I had to pick a time to be born in human history, it would be today. I think that Justin's kid's going to have a better life than Justin. I'm still holding out that somehow I'll manage to reproduce. If I do, I think that kid and subsequently my grandchildren will probably have better lives. And our grandchildren will look back on the period that we're in, and they'll probably have some stupid bullshit about how it was quaint and simpler back then, but overall life will probably be better. When you look at, there are bad things happening right now that we talk about regularly every week. I do not mean to indicate that everything is like sunny and rosy across the board, but when you're looking at overall trends in human history, this is the highest literacy we've ever had. It is, with some exceptions of rollbacks, including Roe v. Wade, globally speaking, it is the highest we've ever had for women's rights. It is the highest we've had in a number of things that would have been very normal and horrible 50 years ago. Just since I was born, an area of the planet about the size of Alaska has been reforested. When I was a kid, we were really worried about deforestation. It's gotten much better. There's all sorts of really good things that are happening right now. I have found that people fucking hate it when you tell them that. There's some kind, like I got disinvited from an event one time back when I was in Edinburgh doing my time as a Rotary scholar. The Rotary Foundation was kind enough to pay me or give me a scholarship to pay for my master's degree. Part of the deal was that I was supposed to go to Rotary clubs throughout Scotland and Milnathort and Kilmahog and other places like that. And I went to some event and I sat next to this guy who's like, oh, life's terrible. It's getting worse and worse. It's awful. And I was like, well, I don't think so. You know, like literacy's higher and we can talk to people instantaneously across the planet. You know, half the global population has left abject child starvation level poverty just since I was born. And it just made him angrier and angrier for me to try to tell him that life is demonstrably better than the day he was born. It pisses people off. I don't fully understand why. It seems in my Tylenol-infused brain, it seems to me to make sense to tell people the good things and militate against them. But I share your discomfort with that. I find it really weird. There have been a few friends of mine that are wallowing in we're all gonna die, like we're all gonna die levels that I find not just wet blanket, but like almost pathological at this point. Overall, we're gonna be okay. Congratulations on your kid.
Jen?
I don't know anyone who's saying that we're all gonna die. Like, I don't know. Maybe I just slough off these super pessimistic people, but like
I've had a few conversations here in DC where somebody, I'm going to be a little careful here, believes that they and their family will be killed in the next 5 years, and that if that doesn't happen, we will all be dead in the next 30 years by climate change. So I do know people that are very, very, very pessimistic about the short-term and long-term prospects.
Yeah, I guess I know people that are pessimistic. Like there's one in particular that I'm thinking of, and his whole thing is like, yeah, we're fucked, so I'm just gonna have a good time. He's actually really pleasant to be around. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm just happy that you're happy you have a baby, and I think it sucks that you feel like you can't share your thoughts with your family. But maybe you don't have to. Like at my holidays, I avoid it. Like there's no point.
We're your family now.
I know. Write to us. We'll be nice to you. But
you and the gay college kid, we're all going to hang out. It's going to be great.
Exactly.
Don't worry.
I mean, what I do know from the people in my life that have kids is eventually your kids are going to go to school. You're going to end up with a whole social life of the parents of your kids' friends. You're going to find people that you're going to see eye to eye with. You're going to have a whole new social life through being a parent. Give it some time. Like you'll find people to talk to.
It is also a consequence of our very siloed political world that being of the out group in certain cultures, I think, is a scarlet letter. Like I think if you were an out and out, Trump sign on the lawn guy in Brentwood, LA, or in Berkeley, you're probably not going to be invited to as many parties as you would be otherwise. In the same way, I think that if you were a hardcore Kamala voter in certain super red districts, or even probably, I don't know if politically, but religiously or something like that, you were on the outs, that you do pay a certain price for it culturally. This is a weird multi-pluralism, has messy parts to it. And part of it is that, and part of how we are siloed right now means that like political iconography does not mean to you what it would mean to other people. To other people, if your sign of political iconography is a sign of destruction, is a sign of persecution, to you, you're like, I don't know, I like the way they tweet.
I think there's two other things that I observe in this phenomenon. This goes way back, by the way. Paul Ehrlich and Simon, I can't remember Simon's first name, famously had a bet. Simon Garfunkel, thank you. The well-established economist Simon Garfunkel. So Paul Ehrlich is a doomsday prophet, and he's full of shit. He was on Johnny Carson 18 times and was a very popular guest in the 60s through the 80s. And his whole thing was, we're all going to die. There is a ticking time bomb on overpopulation. This is in like 1968. We're all going to be dead by the year 2000, picking each other's mothers out of our teeth because the population could hit perhaps 6 billion people by the year 2000. There's no way we could ever have that much food. So we're all going to die. We're going to have to murder each other. There's going to be resource wars and everybody loved it because people love a fucking doom prophet. Doom prophets sound like they are grimly looking into the real future.
They're brave. Like, they're brave.
Somebody like me who's looking at the fucking data, I sound like a used car salesman. And so we always the optimists always get dismissed as trying to sell you something. The people that are pessimistic always get heralded as a prophet. But there's another phenomenon going on as well. So like 10, 20 years ago, we started talking about virtue signaling. That's a real thing. Virtue signaling is a real thing. There are subcategories of signaling that we're seeing right now. A lot of the conservatives engage in vice signaling, where online they will say increasingly inappropriate things, not necessarily because they believe it, but they want to show to their group that they're willing to push against the norms of the enemy group to show bravery and loyalty to their team. Meanwhile, a lot of the progressives are hardly engaged in anguish signaling at this time, where whoever is the most torn up about the universe is the most progressive and therefore the most loyal to the team. And if you are not giving them sufficient credit for that, then you are not giving them credit for being sufficiently progressive, and you're playing into a status game where they're making a status plan, you're not respecting that, and they're getting mad at you. Everybody does it, by the way. It's just that we're seeing different manifestations depending on who's in it right now.
A Voltaire who hates trains brings us on home on this one. I must admit that I got choked up as Jen described why she doesn't favor doing live shows or making efforts to expand her audience. Now is precisely when her voice is most important. I've emailed the show a couple times in the past, mostly with anti-train and rail rhetoric meant to poke at Jen. I will never agree with her on the subject, but I would gladly give my life for her to express batshit crazy views on modern transportation. It is my sincere hope that she never takes a single word of mine in fear. She is a wonderful person and deserves to be heard more in these moments. This man is willing to die for you, Jen.
But he won't come with me on a train. What the hell?
No, he will throw himself in front of a train.
Yeah. Hey, here's my question. Of Jen's batshit crazy ideas, you think trains are that's the thing you think Jen is the most wrong on? That's like, I'm fine with Jen on trains. There's a lot of other batshit crazy ideas that.
Yeah.
All right.
No, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to, I'm feeling better this week. I feel like I'm able to articulate my thoughts a little bit better. When it comes to me going forward and like kind of what I'm thinking, I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but I did a cost benefit analysis of what I'm doing because I looked at like where I'm making the most impact, right? And every time I get on the microphone with Congressional Dish or We're Not Wrong, I'm pretty sure I'm talking to 10,000 people or more, you know? So it's like, that's the one that makes the biggest impact. When it comes to the live shows, little backstory on those. When I agreed to do We're Not Wrong, one of the reasons I wanted to do it is because ever since I had first gone to LA Podfest, which unfortunately is no longer a thing, but it was a podcasting festival for fans, I thought it'd be really cool to be up on those on a stage like that. I wanted to be a part of like the live podcasting community. And I thought that this show could help us do that. So that was one of the things I talked to the boys about. It was one of the dreams that I had. And so when I'm looking at, we had started to experiment with that. It went really well. It was so fun meeting you guys. I was really enjoying it, but we're at the level of it now that we've never made any money on it. Even the ones we broke even, we all were paying for our own hotels and our own flights. We weren't making any money. Maybe there were a handful of people that attended those that had not been familiar with us before, but it wasn't really a big marketing thing. And because that's something that's making me feel less safe to tell people where I'm going to be and when, it seems like an obvious one to cut, because if I continue doing Congressional Edition, We're Not Wrong, even if I don't market it, I have to be conscious of the fact that there's a chance I could still end up getting truly famous. You never know what's going to go viral. You never know what's going to happen. And I think that if that happens to me, knowing my fears as you guys do, if that happens to me and I don't have a calendar of this is where I'm going to be and when, I'll be able to handle it better. So this is a decision that I'm making in order to continue doing the work that I think is the most dangerous. I think the stuff that I've done with Congressional Dish, from the January 6th committee hearing, which is my masterpiece. I took 20 hours and I got it down to a tight 2 to really show you what that son of a bitch did trying to stay president. I've done episodes on Israel. I did episodes about Trump's stupid coup of, attempted coup of Venezuela back in 2017. Like, I want to continue doing that work and I want to continue doing it fearlessly. Although that's not really the word. I'm definitely afraid, but I guess I want to be brave and do it anyway. And so these are the steps that I'm taking so that I can continue to use my voice in doing what I think is most important and most impactful. And I'm not going to say never again, but right now with the way the country is, I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. It wasn't helping our shows enough. It wasn't helping our finances, and it makes me nervous. And so I'm going to say that I'm putting a pause on that for a while. But I'm not going anywhere when it comes to the stuff that I think is impactful for the people that listen to it.
Me and Heaton will do live shows, and she'll eventually get FOMO.
We'll do live shows. I
don't want to spoil it for a fucking year from now, because it's only going to take 1 or 2 shows where Heaton and I have a blast, and then we're fucking sending pictures that Jen's going to be like, fine.
I want to say I appreciate Jen's perspective and her. I don't want Jen to do a show where she doesn't feel safe. So Jen, I respect wherever you are. On my end, I like doing the shows. I'm not worried. I'm going to keep doing them, whether it's the political orphanage or whether it is we leave an absent chair for Jen on We're Not Wrong for one very important reason, and that is I get laid every single time that we do a live We're Not Wrong. I've had 4 great threesomes that came out of it, all in Iowa, all the same night. And so I can't cut that out of my life. Not only will I continue to do it, I am going to do live meetups for the Congressional Dish. I'm going to go out
That's what
and
we're
invite Jen's audience to meet me. And I will pretend to be Jen or something. I don't know. I'll come up with something.
No, I'm fine with that.
Great.
On the subject of protein. We got so many
you.
protein emails for the record. So many fucking protein emails.
Oh, God.
Just Get a Shake Bro writes, as a physician who treats people with obesity, I agree that protein recommendations don't always seem to make sense. Determining one's fitness goals and then determining protein targets work better. However, if somebody does need protein, then a protein shake is a reasonable way to get it. It's a fallacy to say something is intrinsically or more likely to be healthy just because it's natural, quote unquote.
I don't know. I'll take your word for it.
I'll keep drinking protein shakes. I've been doing that. I've been drinking 2-3 a day.
Don't Skip Arm Day writes, hearing about Heaton's calves reminds me of doing a bicep workout before meeting my in-laws. I could not straighten my arms and I had T-Rex arms all weekend. Please remember to stretch.
Yeah, I need to do that because I always forget to stretch before, but I also forget to stretch after. And then I just hurt a lot. If you stretch after, do your arms and legs not hurt as much?
That's actually when it's better to stretch.
See,
it's
here's
better
the thing, though.
when your muscles are warm than
the problem is that it's really fucking boring, so I don't do it. Like once I'm done, I'm like, well, I'm done. I'm leaving. I don't want to have to do I don't want to have to cuddle my muscles. I'm leaving here. But if I stretch them, they'll hurt less the following day.
Theoretically.
So I
the best email. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
So I have an app called Down Dog, Andrew. And I set it for the amount of time. I know you're like holding your dog right now.
Oh, no, it was a sex joke. Continue.
Oh, God. Okay. Well,
my God.
Anyway, this is not a sex app. It is it's a yoga app, but I don't use it for that. There's it's the restorative yoga part of it, and it's just stretching. So you set it for the amount of time. It tells you what to do, and I listen to music while doing it, because if I just have to stretch on my own, after 30 seconds, I'm bored. I got to go. But this is like going to make me stretch the arms, the legs, all the things. I listen to the music I want to listen to. It's been great. And I've been stretching now for 3 years.
Okay.
So
best email of the entire episode we saved for last. UFC Andy writes, Heaton, have you considered trying jiu-jitsu for your fitness activities? It requires a lot of things that you associate with yourself. An autistic level of understanding of systems, getting incredibly close to crossing the line into homosexuality, and a huge culture around buying very expensive, unique clothes to wear while training. If you're open to trying it, you're welcome at the gym I coach in Chantilly. I'd also be more than happy to recommend great gyms in your area of Northern Virginia. There is nothing that I would find funnier than at past 40, Andrew Heaton becoming not only ripped with jiu-jitsu, but also a hardcore UFC fan that by the time that UFC does their pay-per-view on the lawn of the White House on July 4th is very, very excited to see this practice at the highest possible level of competition. Please tell me you are into jiu-jitsu, Andrew Heaton.
You make a compelling case. You make a compelling case. I don't really like fighting people, but I don't know. Maybe I guess I'd feel a little bit better if I could fight people. So maybe, how far is Chantilly from me?
Fucking what am I, Mr. Virginia?
Yeah. That's I don't know. Might take you up on it. Maybe. Or
might as well try it. You never know if you like it. Jamie Kilstein, he's a friend of ours. He loves it. So you never know.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, loves it. Oh, yeah.
Huh. I think you need it, dude. Just get that testosterone up. Just fucking, I
could use a bit
rolling
more
around with another dude trying to get leverage.
All right.
In the down dog position.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe so. Maybe this will. Well, I just hope it doesn't awaken anything. But maybe in terms of the other stuff you bring up, maybe that's good.
Or maybe it will. You've always wanted to be awakened in that way with your rainbow
true, you're right.
suits.
Maybe this is it. Maybe it just needed to be violent. That was the problem.
I just didn't have the violence. Two pills that you would want to take are a gay pill and a ripped pill.
Yeah.
Belying the fact that the pharmaceutical dream version of Heaton is a gay gym bro.
All right. You guys are making a compelling case. I'm going to look into this.
We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg on PX3 this week. There are very, very few moments in American culture that I think are so uniquely American. They can only truly be viewed by somebody who did not grow up in this great country. And so Claire Mignon of Le Poix, French reporter, was in the arena for the Charlie Kirk Memorial. She was up at 3 o'clock in the morning to wait 3 hours in line to be in a football stadium for a religious/conservative memorial for a victim of gun violence, one of the most American things that you could possibly imagine. And so all of her thoughts on that, plus my thoughts on the shutdown and Kimmel thoughts and blah, blah, blah. And then TikTok deal conversation coming up with Tom Merritt on Friday.
Oh, j'adore Claire. That's going to be a good one. Congressional dish. I mean, you heard a lot of it today, but it's going to be about this possible upcoming shutdown. I'm making a lot of the same points that I made today, to be honest with you, but it also comes with sound clips. And so, yeah, you can hear that stuff for yourself, but here we go. So it should be out later on. It should be out before this episode is out. So
on the orphanage, I've got a fun episode. I talked to Sam Bowman in London on a piece he recently wrote on why America is poorer than Europe. And there's two things that we're doing. One, I push back. I try to push back on the premise itself because I don't want to just have a yay America, boo Europe conversation. I want to make sure.
I was going to say that's the other way around, that Europe is poorer than America, right?
Oh, did I misspeak? Thank you. Yes. Why Europe is poorer than America. Thank you. I push back on him, and I think he ends up making a very compelling case that Europe has specific structural issues that is holding back the economy there. It doesn't mean they have to get rid of their social safety net or their walkable cities or their culture or anything like that. There's specific policies on the books that are keeping them from being more dynamic, and it's the reason that America is outpacing them in terms of economic dynamism and economic growth. And it's a very good conversation. And then we also get into like the different parts of Europe, the parts of Europe that tend to work better economically and why. So if you are interested in why America is wealthier and earning more cash than Europe, it's a great episode.
There we go.
Cool.
And that will wrap it up for us today. For Andrew Heaton and Jen Briney, I'm Justin Robert Young saying, we're not wrong. Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are about to find out they are in T-minus 5 days.
Nice.
Dog and Pony Show Audio.